Thanks for joining us and welcome to this on-demand educational event, Understanding Social Security. My name is John Terry and I will be your host for this online educational event as we look at some strategies to optimize Social Security. Now, let me mention on the front end, because again, Social Security is going to require we do this. This information has not been prepared by or reviewed by the Social Security Administration, and I am not an employee of Social Security Administration nor any government agency. Let me also say I'm not an attorney or a CPA, so I'm not giving legal or tax advice. But what I am going to do is I'm going to share some information in here that's in the public domain related to understanding Social Security, its origin, its background, and how it works. And more importantly, some important information that you need to know that can help you in the decision-making process when it comes to that point in life that you're ready to start claiming Social Security benefits. Now, who's this guy talking? Let me real quickly introduce myself in the event you've not had an opportunity to hear me share before. My name is John Terry, and I am a financial success coach. I've been doing speaking, coaching, and training for well over 20 years, and I've spoken to audiences not only here in the United States, but in Central America and in Africa and in other parts of the world as it relates to a number of financial planning matters. I'm married to the beautiful lady that you see next to me, and we have 6 children, currently 3 dogs, a cat, and a goldfish. Life around our house is never dull, especially when the grandkids show up. But my passion is really about helping people make informed financial decisions. I've had an opportunity previously to work in the financial services industry as a personal producer. I've had an opportunity to work as a broker-dealer registered rep and an investment advisor representative, so I do have that background. My uncle was a CPA, and so I've had an opportunity to learn and have him bend my ear and share with me a number of matters. So I want to take my expertise and speak to people like me who are at or near retirement age. I'm 59 years of age. I'm at the tail end of the baby boomer generation. And so the information I'm sharing with you is not just important to me, it's important to people like me, and that includes those of you that are listening to this audience, this opportunity for me to share with you. So I want to take just a few minutes and have an opportunity to talk with you about Social Security and making sure that you've got a good understanding of this foundational part of retirement income planning. Now, when we think about Social Security, it's one piece of retirement. There's a healthcare component, there's a long-term care component, there's a wealth transfer component, but I want to focus really on that green square in the bottom left-hand corner, guaranteed income, because that's what Social Security is. It is a guaranteed source of income in retirement that's going to be important to you. Now, I want to start off with kind of a little fun quiz to test your knowledge of Social Security. I'm going to pose a few questions and give you an opportunity to think about those, and then I'm going to give you the answers, and then we're going to dive into our discussion. So here's the first question. Social Security retirement benefits are based on your earnings history, so you'll receive the same monthly benefit amount no matter when you start collecting benefits. True or false? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that particular answer is false, and I'll explain why in just a few moments. Second question. If your spouse dies, you will continue to receive both your own benefit as well as the benefit of your deceased spouse. Again, this is false. This is important information I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on in our presentation because this is an area that's often overlooked that ends up causing significant harm to surviving spouses once typically dad is gone and mom or grandma, depending on where she is in life, is the only one that's left. Another important question. You must be a U.S. citizen in order to collect Social Security retirement benefits. True or false? This again is false. Next statement. Under current Social Security law, full retirement age is 65 regardless of the year of your birth. Again, this answer is false. You can continue to work while collecting your full Social Security retirement benefits regardless of your age. True or false? Once again, this is a false answer. I'll touch on that as we go through our training here in just a few minutes. If you file retirement benefits and have minor dependent children, they may also qualify for Social Security benefits. True or false? This answer is true. Next statement. As a divorced person, you can collect Social Security retirement benefits based upon your ex-spouse's earning history. True or false? Now, some of you may say true, but it's now false because this strategy was eliminated April 30th, 2016. Again, misinformation or false information can be problematic when thinking about Social Security. Here's another statement. Once you start collecting Social Security, your benefit payments will never change. True or false? That answer is false because Social Security has a cost of living adjustment based upon inflation. Again, we'll touch on that in the presentation. Government workers may have their Social Security benefits reduced. True or false? This answer is true. Certain government workers in certain parts of government may see a reduction in their Social Security benefits because of other benefits that they're eligible to receive. Your spouse can qualify for Social Security retirement benefits even if he or she had no individual earnings history. True or false? That answer is true because even a non-working spouse, maybe a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad that never worked, could qualify as long as the other spouse meets the qualification criteria. Now, when we think about Social Security, let's get in and really kind of think about Social Security as a guaranteed source of income, a guaranteed paycheck in retirement, because that's really what it is. It is a major source of retirement income for millions of Americans today. But qualifying for these benefits and claiming these benefits is one of the most misunderstood parts of retirement planning. And information like this can be valuable to help you make a more informed decision as it relates to the claiming decision of retirement benefits from Social Security. Now, having guaranteed income is important because once you quit working, whatever you've saved, that's your paycheck in retirement. And whether you realize it or not, you're going to spend up to a third of your lifetime in retirement. Think about that. Retiring in your 60s and living to your 90s or even the ripe old age of 100 or more. That's a possibility today because of medical technologies and medical advances. Economist Tom Hegna, who appears on PBS quite often, talks about the fact that when we get ready to retire, we need what he calls a paycheck and a playcheck. Now, a playcheck is the fun money that you use to travel and do all the things you've always dreamed of doing. But I want to focus on the paycheck aspect. Why? Because you got to have a paycheck to pay bills in retirement. Because you're going to have bills every single month, month after month, year after year, for as long as you live, because it takes money to live. And there's only 3 sources of guaranteed income in retirement to provide that guaranteed paycheck for you. The first of those is Social Security. And that's what we're going to talk about in this online workshop that you're attending right now. Now, if you work for the government or you work for some large corporations, they may still offer a pension that has a guaranteed payout benefit. Pensions today are few and far between. So for many Americans, a pension is not an option. The third option is an annuity. This is an insurance contract offered by an insurance company that allows you to deposit a lump sum of money or transfer money from an IRA or a 401k into an annuity and convert that into a guaranteed income stream that can provide you income for as long as you and a surviving spouse can live, and if structured correctly, could leave additional benefits for your kids or grandkids or survivors once you and your spouse are gone. But the conversation today is going to be about bucket 1, and that's Social Security. But let's really kind of go back and take a look at the history of Social Security, which started in 1935. Social Security is part of the federal entitlement programs that we have, Medicare being one of the others, and Medicaid being a part state, part federal program. But 1935, Social Security got started. It is a social insurance program providing financial benefits to covered workers and their dependents. It's funded from our payroll taxes. So as you work and you are paid by your employer, The employer is going to deduct from your paycheck. They're going to send that money to Uncle Sam on your behalf. They're going to add to that. And if you're self-employed, well, guess what? You get to pay the employer and the employee part of that to contribute into the Social Security system. Now, when we think about Social Security, today it comprises about 40 to 60% of most workers' income after they retire. So it's really that foundation, that bedrock area of planning that is so important that you get right. But there's a sad statistic right below that. Social Security is often the sole source of income for nearly 80% of single elderly women. Now, this is a financial crime due to a lack of proper planning by individuals who are either short-sighted or working with financial professionals who retirement planning is not their field of expertise. The financial professional who invited you here specializes in what we call decumulation. Accumulation is growing money during your working years, and that's important. But once you get to retirement age, it's important that you properly decumulate those assets that you've accumulated, turning those assets into a guaranteed source of income that's going to provide for you for as long as you live. Also, directing part of that money into certain types of investment vehicles that is going to allow you to grow some money so that as inflation rears its ugly head down the road, especially if you live a long time, that you've got additional pools of money to tap into. But making sure that we address this income issue for elderly women is a personal crusade that I'm on, and you'll see why as we go a little deeper into today's training. But a little bit more of a backstory. Let me introduce you to Otto von Bismarck. Now, who is Otto von Bismarck, and why are we talking about him when we're talking about Social Security? To understand the origins of Social Security, we've got to go back to Europe in the 19th century. Otto von Bismarck was the Chancellor of Germany at the time. Interestingly enough, he was a German military general, very, very intelligent. In fact, we get the term Plan B from Otto von Bismarck because he never entered a battle without a contingency plan that in the event the initial plan of attack failed, they always had a secondary attack that his underlings finally started calling Bismarck's Plan B, so that if the initial plan of attack didn't work, there was always a backup plan. So that's where that's free information. Maybe you didn't want to know it or not, but I did want to share it because Otto von Bismarck saw the opportunity to create a social insurance program to provide for, get this, significantly aged individuals that had outlived their savings. That was the initial idea behind social insurance. By 1935, some 34 nations around the world had adopted some form of a social insurance program. Now, about 20 of those programs, like Social Security, were contributory, meaning employers and employees were participating in funding these social insurance networks. Now, the guiding philosophy of all of these was to create a government-sponsored attempt to provide for the economic security of its citizens. And one of its earliest advocates in 1912 here in the United States was Teddy Roosevelt. He was a big fan of the social insurance safety net. Now, right after the Great Depression, we saw a precursor to Social Security known as the Townsend Plan. It was created by Dr. Francis Townsend, a physician who found himself unable to work because of the crash of 1929. And in 1933, he became the self-proclaimed champion for the cause of the elderly. He was unemployed, and he saw the significant hardship that this was placing on people of advanced age who at that point had little savings, in fact, no savings, and were struggling just to make ends meet. So he proposed what was called the Townsend Old Age Revolving Pension Plan. Here's an interesting thing in how this was put together. I find it fascinating. He was going to propose $200 a month to every citizen of the United States age 60 or older. Now, that person had to be retired. And I love this. They had to be free of habitual criminality. If you were a career criminal, 3 strikes or more, you were out. But that money that you received, that $200 a month, couldn't be saved. It had to be spent within the United States borders within 30 days of receiving it, so that the money went back into the economy and stimulated the economy to help get the economy out of the Great Depression. The idea behind it was that it was going to be funded by a 2% national sales tax. And although it never gained national prominence, we saw several states take on some version of this as an early form of social insurance before the current Social Security Administration system came to play. Now, I want to also introduce you to Ernest Ackerman because he is the earliest known recipient of a Social Security check. In 1937 up to 1940, Social Security paid out benefits in the form of a single lump sum payment. Now, Ernest Ackerman had an opportunity to participate in the program for one day. The program was implemented, and the very next day he retired. Now, I find it interesting that in that one day he was in the program, they withheld one nickel from his paycheck, and that went to the Social Security program. And then after he retired, he filed a claim and actually received a lump sum payment of 17 cents. Now, we may smile at that, but if you think about it, that's a pretty good return on investment for a one-day investment into Social Security. He tripled his money. That was his retirement. But one of the more interesting stories was the very first Social Security monthly check recipient. And here she's pictured, Miss Ida Mae Fuller, with her very first Social Security check. She received that check on January 31st, 1940. Now, she was a secretary, and she paid in $24.75 during the 3 years that Social Security was in place while she was working in the twilight of her career. Her initial check that you see in this picture was $22.54 that she received at age 65. Here's where the story gets even better. Miss Fuller lived to the age of 100, and by the time she died, she collected almost $23,000 in benefits over 35 years of retirement from a $24.75 investment. That is a good return on investment. But when we think about Social Security, we need to understand, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again before this training time is over, Social Security is really the bedrock and the foundation of retirement income planning. If you're fortunate enough to have a pension or other savings or other income producing assets, those add too. But as we saw, Social Security is going to make up 40 to 60% of your guaranteed income in retirement, just as it is mine. And so it's a really big deal. We need to understand that for many of us that are going to be retiring, Social Security is our greatest asset. And this statistic shocked me when I first heard it just a few years ago. And think about this, over a typical retirement, the benefit for a married couple may well exceed $1 million in total benefits. In 2014, the average worker received $1,294 a month. For a married couple, that's a little over $31,000 a year. If you're going to be retired for 25 to 30 years, that could be well over $1 million of benefits if you claim correctly. Now, 80 to 90% of working Americans make the mistake often of claiming Social Security benefits at the age of 62, which is the earliest age at which they can claim benefits. Oftentimes, they don't give thought to the fact that they're going to be receiving less money for the rest of their lives than they would have if they would have waited to receive it at either their natural retirement age or at the end of the delayed benefit period, which we'll talk about more. Now, it may make sense to take it at 62, but oftentimes it makes more sense to wait and take it at a later date. But it's an important number to get right, and it's a very important reason to have a follow-up conversation after this presentation is over with the financial professional who invited you here, so they can walk you through a process of counting the cost and looking at the benefits that would be available to you at different ages so that you can make a more informed decision of when you want to retire and what that financial impact is going to be on you and your family moving forward. Now, we do know that if you are a low income earner, Social Security is going to be a greater portion of your guaranteed income in retirement. Because if you are a low income earner, you don't have the discretionary dollars to save that an average or a high income earner may have. So you're going to be leaning more on Social Security. So the less money you made during your working years, the more important this claiming decision is going to be for you. But we need to understand how benefits are calculated because this is a step in making sure that we maximize our benefits that's often overlooked. So let me explain quickly how Social Security walks through the steps to come up with what your monthly paycheck is going to be. Your Social Security retirement benefit checker is going to be payable based upon your earnings history for the work that you've done in the workaday world, either as self-employed or as an employed individual for a business. There's a three-step process they go through. In step one, Social Security is going to look into their records that your employer has filed, or if you're self-employed, that you filed on your own, and they're going to look at your entire work history. They're going to pull out the highest 35 earning years, your biggest income for those 35 years, and they're going to set those numbers aside. So if you worked 40 years or 45 years, they're going to take the top 35. Now, if for some reason you didn't work at least 35 years, and let's say you were a stay-at-home mom, you took care of kids, and then after all the kids were grown and gone, you went to work, you've only worked 20 years, well, they need 35 years to do the calculation. So they're going to take the 20 years you did work, and then they're going to add zeros for 15 more. And then they're going to take those highest 35 earning years, and they're going to take a monthly average of those 35 highest earning years to come up with what they call your average indexed monthly earnings. And then they're going to go through this and utilize a formula based upon this number to generate your monthly check. Now, your mind may immediately go where mine did. Wait a minute, John, if I didn't work 35 years, they're going to add zeros to the years I didn't work, and then they're going to average that. Those zeros just made that average number smaller. And you're exactly right. And we're going to talk about that as an optimization strategy in just a few moments. But if you haven't worked 35 years, it may make sense for you to work a little bit longer to make sure that you've met that criteria so that you've got the highest 35 earning years in that calculation. Now, when it comes to claiming Social Security retirement benefits, you've got to meet two criteria. Number one, you have to be what we call fully insured to make sure that you have worked at least 40 quarters. That's 10 years of employment, and you've got to be at least age 62. Now, to be able to receive the full benefit for which you would be eligible, you've got to work to what we call full or your natural retirement age to be eligible for full benefits. And if you claim earlier than your full retirement age, your benefits are going to be reduced. I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like in a minute, but you need to think about what I just said. 80 to 90% of Americans claim their benefits at age 62, and those benefits are going to be reduced for the rest of their lives. And because one of the checks that you and your spouse have, if you're married, the greater of the two is going to be left to the surviving spouse at the death of the first individual in a married couple, that check becomes very, very important. Because if you're receiving a reduced check today, guess what your surviving spouse is going to receive when you're gone? A reduced check as well. So this claiming decision is important because Social Security can impact more than one life. Early claiming can be costly. Let me give you an example of what I mean. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, the earliest age that you could claim benefits is age 62. If you claim benefits at age 62 and you're born between 1943 and 1954, you would only receive 75% of your benefit. So let's just assume that's $1,000. Instead of receiving $1,000 a month, you would only receive $750 a month for the rest of your life. Now, if you were born again between 43 and 54, your natural retirement age is 66. So if you waited until age 66, you would receive 100% of your full benefit. Using the same example, now instead of $750, you would be receiving $1,000 a month every month for the rest of your life. However, if you chose to wait to the age of 70, the latest age that you could receive what we call delayed income credits, you would receive 132% of what you would have received at age 66. That would be $1,320 a month in the example if the $1,000 a month was full benefit. But think about the difference of what you're giving up. Do you want to receive 75% of what you would have been promised or 132%? As you can see, this claiming decision can be costly if it's made at the wrong time. So this timing decision is extremely important. Again, it's another important reason to have a conversation with the financial professional who invited you to hear me share this educational information. They have software tools that can help you do an analysis to determine the optimum time to claim based upon your unique situation. But let's talk about natural retirement age because that comes up a lot. And when we think about natural or what we call full retirement age, if you were born prior to 1937, natural retirement age for you is 65. If you were born 1938 or later, there is a graduated scale that Social Security has implemented that rises up to, if you were born in 1960 or later, age 67. I'm 61 at the end of the baby boomers. So for me, my natural retirement age is 67. I can claim as early as age 62, but if I want to receive my full benefits, I have to wait until the age of 67. If I choose to wait until age 70 or any year past age 67, for every year I wait, Social Security is going to provide some additional benefits, what we call delayed income credits. Now, I want you to notice if you were born in 1943 or later, that is an 8% benefit enhancement every year. So in my scenario, born in 1961, my natural retirement age is 67. If I choose to delay, for every year I delay up to the age of 70, Social Security is going to add an additional 8% per year to my benefit account, and that's going to increase the amount of money I'm going to receive. Now, I don't know where you can go today and get a guaranteed 8% return on your money. That's a pretty attractive feature that you may want to consider. Again, you've got to sit down and look at your unique situation and when the claiming decision makes sense for you. But if you've got additional assets that you can tap, an IRA, a 401k, or other income producing assets, or you're going to continue working for an extended period of time, maybe it makes sense to delay. It's a conversation you need to have with your trusted financial advisor. Now, verifying your benefits is important because if there's something underreported or misreported, that's going to impact how much money you're going to receive. So how do you verify your earnings? Social Security publishes an annual statement, and it's important that you take an opportunity to view this statement to make sure that your income is being reported correctly, because you only have 3 years to correct an error in the event Social Security misreports information on your Social Security statement. And in the event your income is underreported, when they do that three-step calculation process we talked about earlier, you would end up seeing a reduction in benefits because of an underreporting issue. Now, how do you verify those records? Probably the easiest way to do it today is to go to the internet, ssa.gov/my-account. You can either log in, or if you haven't done so, it's pretty easy to create an online account. And then once you've done that, you can actually view and download a copy of your earnings report. Now, you can also try to call Social Security, and as you can imagine, how many people are trying to call Social Security every day, but they do have an 800 number. They're open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. But I can promise you that if you do try to call that 800 number, you're likely to be on hold for a while because it is a very popular place for people to call. But I do encourage you to think about verifying your earnings and making sure you do that on a consistent, regular basis. And one of the currently easiest ways to do that is to go to ssa.gov/my account, and from there have an opportunity to access your records. And you can share those with your financial advisor, and they can use that to help you do whatever analysis is appropriate in your financial situation. But as we get ready to wrap up, I want to take a few minutes and share some ideas about making sure that you're doing things in a proper way to maximize your opportunity with Social Security. Now, number one, one of the things that's important is to make sure, as we've talked about, that you work at least 35 years. You want to replace those zero earning years with earned income years, because that's simply going to increase that monthly average calculation figure that they use to determine your monthly benefit check. Strategy number two that you need to think about is that if you've got an opportunity to earn more money, then you've got an opportunity to increase your benefits. Now, that could mean working longer, or it could mean taking out a second or even a third job to add benefits to, especially if you've only had an opportunity to put in just a few years. Again, maybe you were out of the workforce for a period of time, raising children, excuse me, or doing something else that may have taken you, for whatever reason, out of the workforce. Making sure that you're putting in as much money as possible, because every dollar paid in is going to increase the benefit check that you're going to receive in retirement. Strategy number three is making sure that you wait until at least full retirement age. Again, there may be rationale why you take it at age 62, and it's important that you count that financial cost. But for many Americans, it's just a premature decision with no thought given. So it's important to count the cost and think about waiting until at least full retirement age, so that you're going to get the maximum benefits that are available to you for the dollars that you've paid in over your working career. Optimization strategy number four is to consider, does it make sense in your unique situation to delay claiming until age 70 or maybe 69 or 68? Because remember, you're going to earn a delayed income credit of 8% annually up to the age of 70. Now, that delayed income credit benefit stops at age 70, so you're not going to earn any more past that, but it will allow you to give consideration to whether or not you want to tap another income source, like a 401k, an IRA, a Roth, or other savings that you have, to allow this benefit to grow. Because more money later on in life may be important to offset inflation, or to make sure additional dollars are there to help pay for healthcare needs, or, as we move into strategy number five, to make sure that you're maximizing your survivor benefit. Because the longer you delay, the greater your check. The greater your check, the greater the odds are that you're going to leave more to a surviving spouse. We do know that in a married scenario, the female in the family tends to outlive her husband on average by 5 to 7 years. So maximizing the benefit to a surviving spouse is an important but all too often overlooked facet of retirement income planning that's very, very essential. Now, number six is important too, because from time to time, you've got a married couple that has one spouse that may be terminally ill, but they're not quite that old. So think about this. In 75% of cases, according to a study done by Boston College Center for Financial Research, men tend to predecease women in a marriage scenario. So if, as an example, your husband is terminally ill and is not expected to live to full retirement age, if you go ahead and turn benefits on just to get that check coming in, that would end up capping that widow's benefits into all future years. So thinking into this particular strategy is also important, and it's why it is so necessary to go back to the financial professional that invited you to hear this training, and to do some research and to investigate what your available options are, so that you can make an informed decision that's in your financial best interest. Now, there were two significant changes in 2016 with the rules that really came into play. And there's, again, many people think these options are still available, and they're not. Oftentimes, you could go in and file for one part of Social Security and not file for all of your benefits. As of 2016, anytime you file for benefits, whether it is spousal benefits or your own benefits, it's deemed a filing for everything. And so you can no longer pick and choose what benefit you want to receive. In the past, you could say, well, I only want the survivor benefit and I want my regular benefit to defer. Today, when you file, Social Security is going to give you the greater of spousal or your own benefits, and you're going to get the greater of those, and they're done. Also, prior to 2016, there was a strategy where you could what was known at that time as file and suspend, where an individual could file for benefits and then immediately suspend those so they could begin earning deferral credits again so that they could allow a surviving or a spousal to be able to claim benefits on their own. As of 2016, these rules have been done away with. So you can no longer use any type of file and suspend strategy with Social Security. Again, misinformation is bad information. And if you're relying on bad information to make a decision, you're not going to make the best decision. Now, I've touched on it before, and I'm going to touch on it again just very quickly. Social Security benefits may cover 2 or more lives, you and your spouse. You may be in a situation that now you, because of an accident or an injury, maybe you're having to take care of your children's children and you become their ward. And now you've got minor children at home. Social Security benefits may be available to them. And under certain scenarios, you may have a situation where you've got an aged parent that you are now caring for, and potentially there could be some Social Security benefits available to you as it relates to aged parents. But the big important thing really are the first 2 bullet points, you and your spouse. Now, why? I want you to think about the odds of a married couple age 62 living to at least the age of 90. There's a 40% chance, that's as of 2011, that at least one of 2 individuals in a married scenario is going to live to the age of 90. Since 2011, we've seen continued advances in medical technology and longevity, and this number is likely higher today than it was when this study was done in 2011. So my question is, doesn't it make sense when you're thinking about Social Security to maximize these benefits, not just for you, but for anyone and everyone that could potentially be impacted by these Social Security retirement benefits? Now, there's 2 really important questions that you've got to make sure that you answer as it comes to Social Security claiming. Remember, according to a study that was done by Boston College, there are hundreds of possible hypothetical outcomes for claiming Social Security. But understanding which strategy works best for you is a question best answered when you're working with a knowledgeable financial professional who understands Social Security's role in planning for retirement. Now, what are those 2 important questions? The first question is going to be, how long are you going to continue to work? Because that's an important question, because if you're still paying into the system, do you want to claim Social Security benefits early? Because if you do, the additional income that you're earning from employment may cause your Social Security benefits to become either partially or fully taxable. So does it make sense to claim benefits while you're still working? The second question is, what is the optimum time to claim Social Security benefits that's going to maximize the opportunity for myself and my family going forward? The answer to these 2 questions will have a significant impact on how much money you're going to have in retirement. Not so much about how much you saved or how much you've invested, because if those savings and investments can't be turned into income, how much value are they to you in being able to pay your bills every single month? One thing I can say about Social Security, it is secure, guaranteed, sustainable income. It provides that social safety net and gives you a foundational income that you and your spouse can rely on. Because of the cost of living and inflation protection built into Social Security, there's some inflation-proof mechanisms inside of that. But the most important thing to remember is as long as you're alive and your spouse is alive, a Social Security check is going to continue to come to you every single month for as long as you live. Social Security is an integral part of retirement income planning that is often overlooked as being integrated in your planning. Because as you're thinking about Social Security, it's a foundation, but it's not all. That claiming decision is so important because it needs to coordinate with all of your other income producing assets in retirement to make sure that you are decumulating from each asset that you own at the optimum time to leverage those for the rest of your life. So who needs to plan? Well, if you've not yet claimed Social Security retirement benefits, you should have a conversation with your trusted financial advisor. If you've claimed Social Security retirement benefits in the past 12 months, you've got an opportunity in the first 12 months for a do-over. But after 12 months, whatever decision you've made, you're stuck with. Or if you're just concerned about leaving the most possible income to a surviving spouse, even if you've already made the claiming decision, how you fix that? It's a retirement income planning conversation that you need to have. Now, if you haven't really realized that, I'm really talking about you. You need to plan. The rules have changed, and if you're relying on the old rules pre-2016, thinking you can game the system, the ability to game the system is no more. And so making sure that you do proper planning is going to be critical, because the more income that you make, the more reliant you're going to have to be on other sources. But making sure that you maximize that benefit to get the most possible is important. If you are a low income earner your entire life, this is a mission critical decision for you, because this is going to be your primary source of income in retirement. And you've got to make sure that you are making the decision that is best for you and your family. And one of the most powerful statements I heard someone share with me when I shared information like this just a few years ago, a gentleman came up to me and he said, this was one of the best ways I could say I love you to my spouse and my kids, was to make sure I made this decision correctly. Now, there's a lot more to planning, and we haven't touched on any of the other pieces of the puzzle. But when you have an opportunity to go back and visit with the financial professional who invited you to hear me share, they're going to ask your permission to make sure that all the pieces of the puzzle that are important to your retirement success have at least been discussed, so that you will have the ability to make an informed decision about how you plan to address healthcare, how you plan to address long-term care issues should they arise, and how you're going to make sure that you're going to create a wealth transfer plan that provides for your surviving spouse and ultimately passes your estate on to your kids, your grandkids, or the charities and causes that you care about. And that's where the financial advisor that invited you to this event can help. Why? Because they focus on retirement income planning. That's one of the reasons they drove you to hear me share, is because this is an area that they believe is important, that you need to learn more information about so that you can make an informed decision. I know that many of them utilize a proprietary software tool or tools that can help you analyze where Social Security fits in your overall retirement plan, and to give you some recommendations on how to maximize those benefits, and more importantly, integrate Social Security into your holistic retirement plan. Because at the end of the day, we all want one thing. I want it for me, and you want it for yourself. We all want to be able to make an informed decision about how we're going to finance our retirement. You know, when I think about the fact that I'm going to live a third of my lifetime in retirement, it just, at times, I just have to stop and just take a deep breath. My dad is 84, my mom is 80, and they're both in great health, and they're still living life. And as I'm watching them live life, I'm thinking, The decisions I make in just a few short years are going to dictate the quality of life I'm going to be able to finance for 20, 25, or 30 years or more. And that's important. But I can say that at the end of the time together with a trusted financial professional that understands retirement income planning, here's what I know can happen for you. Because as I've used individuals like this, I've had an opportunity to learn. And I've had an opportunity to really become knowledgeable in this area. But working with a trusted financial professional, you're going to have a better understanding of what your claiming options are. Number two, you're going to be able to see and do the math to determine if you've got any financial shortfalls based upon the amount of money you know you're going to need or think you're going to need. And if you're not yet ready to retire, you still got time to work to make up that difference so that you can retire with the money that you're going to need for the 20 to 25, 30 years you're going to be spending in retirement. Being able to ask questions and to have those questions answered by a knowledgeable financial professional. There is significant value in that. And if you're working with a true trusted professional who is acting in your best interest, they're not going to pressure you to buy anything because they're not product focused. They are focused on helping you identify the money problems that you want solved and are going to help you solve those problems. Now, if the financial professional you're working with is not doing this, then you need to find a financial planning professional who will do these things and can help you get your questions answered. But I want to challenge you as I challenge myself. I say, John, don't leave money on the table. It's important that you understand what your Social Security claiming options are. And it's also mission critical, in my opinion, that you have an integrated Social Security claiming strategy in place that works with all of your other income producing assets so that you're taking money from the right bucket of money at the right time to make sure that as long as you live, however long that is, you're going to have guaranteed, sustainable income to pay the bills. And if you got money left over to play and have fun, that's all the more reason to think about this. Because if you know you've got your guaranteed income covered, now you know what you can do with your discretionary money, and you can spend that with less anxiety and less fear because you know you've got the basics covered. So what are your next steps? Well, first off, I want to say thank you for attending and giving me an opportunity to share some educational insights. But educational insights and information alone is okay. But if you don't act on that information, that knowledge doesn't become wisdom. So I'd like to encourage you to schedule a no obligation review of your retirement income planning needs with the individual that invited you to hear me speak. Now, I do know that as a thank you for meeting with that individual, one of the things that they're going to offer you is a complimentary Social Security optimization report for you and your spouse. They will be able to take your Social Security earnings statement, input that into a software tool that will allow them to give you a report that can give you a forward look at what your benefits might look like at various retirement ages. Again, allowing you to make a more informed decision of when you actually want to pull the trigger to walk away from the workaday world that we call life and transition into the world of retirement. And also, as a thank you for meeting with them and having a complimentary review, they'd love to either buy your lunch or buy your dinner if you can get together. At the time we're recording this, oftentimes you can't because of COVID restrictions. However, if they can't get together, maybe they can send you a DoorDash or they can provide you with a gift card so that you can have a meal delivered to your house. But the important thing for me is making sure that, like I have, you have the financial peace of mind to know that you've gotten the information that you need to make an informed decision about your Social Security and how that works with your other assets to make sure that you've got the guaranteed income that you need, that retirement paycheck that's going to be with you for the rest of your life. I'm John Terry, and I again want to say thank you for being part of this educational event. I trust you found it valuable, and I hope that you will take the next step and follow up with the financial professional who invited you here, and from that, have an opportunity to gain important information that can help you make an educated decision about your next steps when it comes to your money. Thanks for joining me, and have a great day.